The Heed the Call podcast is at Minicamp, live from Maui.
The whole audience is like, oh no, remote shows suck. Don't worry, we're not at Minicamp in Maui. I'm in a f***ing garage. Mark is in the concrete hellhole of downtown Hollywood. Welcome to Heed the Call.
Concrete hellhole. You know, I will say, it would have been a bad move to go cover Rams camp, which I think we did specifically like 8 years in a row, and it felt a little on the nose with our old employer. Just minutes before the show, though, you're sandblasting my background, saying that it's not appropriate or it's not. You didn't rate it highly. I put a lot.
No, I have a little bit of an issue with. Because my background's no great shakes either. I would say they're probably like they would average out around 7. And then you cut to bring in Justin, our producer, in his 30,000 square foot house in Dallas that he's paying like $400 a month for, and it looks like damn Adam Schefter's background. He's what? Look at the furniture. Look at the lighting. I mean. It's like a Titans nightclub over there, and his is 10 out of 10, and ours is what ours is. So I just think as we approach our end of season 1, then, July break, heading into season 2 of Heed the Call, it could be a chance to make some alterations.
I think you were right. If I were to oval scan so you could see the rest of the room I'm in, you'd be like, I get why there's not a lot of movement here. But I would say one thing.
Oval scan.
Well, I don't know what I'd call it.
That
just
is alien
rotation
talk right there.
But let's say this.
Talk about rotation of camera. We call it oval scan.
Okay. But let's say we meet in the middle. We up our game a little, but our producer doesn't go out of his way to outshine us.
I think that would help. I would think actually we should have Justin strip out all this this
garbage.
How would you describe his background? It's like a rich mahogany. The wood, it's very
a mixture
expensive.
of woods and nightlife, a rich person's lair.
And I should also say, not to change the subject, but we do have this break coming up, and Justin and I are very busy. It's a little bit of a tough situation, and maybe we should bring it up just real quick that we are going to take a break at the beginning of July, and this is something we had planned for, months in advance, really. And then come back for the start of training camp. The plan is July 21. And then Justin and I get absolutely sideswiped by Sessler, who pulls one of the great moves of all time. Mark alerts us that he's taking vacation the week before we're taking our break. So he's doing double vacation, and Graver and I are scrambling to figure out a show plan and how to bank extra episodes. So, Mark, just thank you for that. If we're talking a little show production, Justin and I, just when we want to take our foot off the pedal and be in Maui, even in our dreams, you're making sure to keep us grinding to the finish line before 4th of July. Thanks, pal.
Well, it was a guarantee this would come up and come out in this format. Let's be very clear about something, because I alerted in April that I will be taking these days. It's a family. It's sort of a family reunion. I'm not in control of 18 family members and their children. So it's when this. I'm just saying this is when it's either do it or don't. I alerted in April. I alerted in May. I alerted again in early June, and then it's so sideswiped is strong.
This is the move. This is the move. Let's bring in Conor Orr, by the way, who also is someone as a responsible adult that has family commitments. Sometimes you just got to make it work. You could have said, I can't. Hello, Conor.
Hi.
I can't do that last week in June because it's a very busy week for my show, but I'm going to visit you in July when we have a few weeks off for the show. Do you think maybe you could push this family gathering a week so old Cess Dog out west can be there? Something like that. Or if you don't want to go to it, you might not want to go to it. You could say, wish I could go. Can't make it.
No, too much familial tonnage for me to dictate a different week, just to be honest, because it's at the point where we're talking about 18 kids doing 4,000 sports and other, nonsensical items.
Yes, Justin?
I think you and I may be just a little bit jealous here that Mark planned his vacation so perfectly that
Yes.
you and I, like, he did it first, so you and I can't also do
it.
that. And then we're left to man the stations here, and it's like the way we're gonna let him hear about it, our jealousy, is to sort of just do what we're doing now, as opposed to saying it.
Connor, and I don't want to put you in an uncomfortable situation here, but what grinds my gears a little bit is when we were on our planning call last week when Mark dropped this bombshell on us. It was like, you know what? I'm really sorry about this, guys. I don't have any control over it. And this is a man born in 1973. Like, this is a man that should be able to have control of things, and he's just telling us, oh, you know, I wish I could do something about this. I can't. I'm sorry. And I just, that hurts me a little bit, because it's like, what am I supposed to say to that? What do we say to that?
I'm going to kind of take a third side of this, and that is, you know, no one else in Mark's family has a successful podcast that I know of. And when it comes to being the most famous member of your family, like, yeah, the world should revolve around you a little bit. Like, if John Mayer is on tour and you want to have a Mayer family reunion, you check the fucking tour dates first before you plan it. And so I think really, like, the enemy here is the Sessler family at large. I think is really where
that takes some onus off of me, which I appreciate.
And I know everyone's thinking the same thing. Oh, easy. This is 2025. Mark can do a show or two remote. We were alerted that I can't do that. I couldn't possibly do that. We're going to be deep in the woods or something.
Well, that's true. I'm unsure.
Like a cover story.
Meanwhile, unsure what
old Zuzzer is going to be in Texas at my in-laws' house next week. I'll be cranking out extra content. What do you got to say about Sessler?
It's now clear to me that while this began, even on our call, it was a little bit of a needling and some joking around about it. But Dan is a little annoyed, and like,
because you got us. Justin nailed it. You got us. You hit us with a vacation before the vacation, and there's nothing else that we can do.
Do you think that when I was, working with 18 other individuals over this, time slot, that my goal was to hoodwink the two of you? Like, that's sort of where I'm coming from.
A little bit of an extra bonus, I would think, at the end. It's like, as you looked at your calendar, it was all of a sudden wide open for 30 straight days. It was like, oh.
At my first job, they called it tacking on days. And for example, before 4th of July, we weren't allowed to take the Wednesday before the 4th of July off because we already got the Thursday and Friday.
Well, the two of you are like, you're in lockstep with the sort of, left and right punches. And then Connor comes in and nails I guess it would be my trainer in the face, who's the parallel.
Well, let's make it. He
take the whole team out.
Completely absolve you of this, because if Con Man got hit with this at SI, he'd be singing a different tune. You know what I mean? So
I think you should. I get that you're the victims, so-called, in this. I think you should praise me, though, because in today's workforce and the way that work, operates today, it was a masterstroke. Although it was not planned, it just worked out that way.
It was a direct hit. You sunk our battleship. That being our late June in the NFL quietest part of the season. So we'll move forward. We'll get through this. We've been through worse. Today's show is a good one. Yeah, we're not in Maui. The Rams are in Maui. Good for them. I don't know if Jordan's in Maui. Jordan Rodriguez, who covers the Rams for The Athletic and is going to be on the show next week, filling in for Mark, is she told me she's on vacation. I didn't want to pry, but I'm wondering if there's a connection. I guess we'll find out. But we're going to talk about some of the teams. What do we got? What do we got this week? A bunch of teams, obviously. The majority of teams had their mini camps last week. The Ravens, the Chiefs, the Giants, the Rams, and Seahawks all holding their mandatory minicamp this week. So any news that's coming out of those camps will hit today and later in the week. And we're going to get into some news. What's happened since our last ep, shall we? We're good, Mark. The problem is I can't stay mad at you because I love you. And that's family. And this is family. So it's kind of like you're leaving our family reunion to go to another one, and maybe that's just jealousy on a different level.
Well, I think whenever you go on any sort of family vacation too, you're kind of crossing your fingers when kids are involved that it isn't like a complete apocalypse. So it's not like I'm not going to Hawaii to lie on the beach with like Stefan Diggs's harem. Like I'm going. It's a work vacation.
You're going deep into the Connecticut wilderness where there is no Wi-Fi. That's what we were made aware of. So enjoy it.
That is accurate. Thank you, though. And I love you too, and I love you all.
Love
And
you.
if that weren't the case, I can't be annoyed at your annoyance because I get it.
I'll get my revenge in 26. I'm already starting. The wheels are in motion. All right, let's do some news.
Sean, what's up with Devon Bailey? Is he dealing with anything that's going to keep him out? Like
No. He's going to be full go. Start a training camp. Everything's good. We should be. That's it. That's it. Did you hear me? Okay. That's it means. That means it stops.
Sean Payton from Broncos minicamp. I know that kind of seems like he's being rude to the reporter, shutting him down and almost admonishing him like he's a child, the reporter. But I think there is a soft spot to me, Conor Orr, that he is a direct descendant of the Parcells coaching tree, and that's just Bill. That is, he learned at the foot of the great Parcells, the big tuna, and being a jerk to reporters and making them look and feel small is right out of the playbook. And you don't see enough of it, quite frankly, anymore. So I applaud Sean Payton for being the old crank that he is.
I might take definitely a different stance on that. I think as someone who's been on the receiving end of that in particular, I'd have another word for it. But I read criticism that we're beeping too much on the episode, so I won't say it. But yeah, I have some words.
Well, you could share them without using your potty mouth. Like, what is your take on it? You think it's out of bounds? Yeah.
Well, you know what it is? It's like, I think it depends on how far it goes. Like these little interactions. I had a coach one time that I covered who called my beat partner a dick because he was just asking too many health related questions. And I feel like that's a normal verbal tennis match. What Sean is capable of doing in escalation beyond these little press conferences, I think is where it takes it to a different level. And I think that, you could probably ask some other people who've had to cover him on a daily basis that, there are coaches who take it to the point of, making you perhaps fear for your livelihood, and then there's that level of angry. And then there's coaches who kind of just, it's like, okay, yeah, this is a little part of a little back and forth and we're friends. And like 2 years from now, when we see each other at the induction ceremony, I'm going to elbow you and be like, let's go golfing together. Like there's two ends of this spectrum. And I think he lives at he's like, I just finished Harry Potter. He's kind of in the dark castle. He's Slytherin,
He and like Liam Cohen doesn't get away with this. It's a very Sean Payton-esque move, and we've gone over this on the show before. But we know that Sean Payton reads his own clippings densely, like at all months of the season and off season, and will call offices to seek out reporters and editors and shoo them out.
He's also I honestly think he's last of a dying breed.
Yeah.
I think that level of antagonism with the media, most coaches, especially younger coaches, know ultimately that doesn't really play in your favor. You don't necessarily come off well, and you also make potential enemies, and you're going to need the media to keep a job in the long term because it's not always going to be sunshine and roses. It's a bit of it's a little more of a chummy league, and I guess I just don't mind some of that. Peyton has a stature where he can be that way. And there's not many guys that could. Belichick was another one, obviously, famously, and you see where he is now. So
here's the thing, though. It's always having talked to so many coaches who have just been fired in the days and months and weeks after it happens. One of the first things that they always say is, I wish I had done the thing that, like, for example, Nick Sirianni when he came in, or, a lot of these new coaches now will do additional off the record meetings with the beat reporters to be able to say like, hey guys, like when you asked me that question and I had to shut it down, here's why, because there's something going on. And if you write about it, you just need to know that this is, kind of where we're at. That is one of the number one things. Because another guy that came in, remember how Urban Meyer came in to Jacksonville? Oh, yeah. And I feel like that when you Bigfoot like that, as a reporter who's kind of always been like, you're the gum under everybody's shoe, and that's just kind of your life and your livelihood and your lot in the economic sphere. But that always is like, okay, pal, like let's go see what's under these rocks.
Your hackles are up. Like
Yeah, you're just like,
you're
all right,
spoiling for a fight a little bit.
You're like, okay.
And that's why journalism is so important. Real journalism and real journalists like Conor Orr to challenge these, guys if they go into their bully mode. All right, let's get into it. Real quick, 3 first-round picks who have not yet signed their contracts. Travis Hunter, Bengals edge Shamar Stewart, Broncos cornerback Jahdae Barron. So those guys are not under contract yet. We know Cincinnati, and we talked about it at length last week, is trying to jam in some language in the contract for Stewart that he is not on board with. I did see some replies or, not pushback, but people commenting on our commentary, which was obviously pretty anti-Cincinnati's business practices, that what they are trying to put in that contract is not totally new in the NFL rookie contract sphere, but it is new in the Cincinnati Bengals sphere. So there is, to Conor's point last week, there is a precedent that gets set, and if Stewart takes it, now all Bengals first-rounders have to take it, and it's a tough situation to put a guy in. He has left camp, by the way. He left camp, and now we're going to see when he shows up. Let's go into the Bungles Den, all right? Trey Hendrickson is the other big story there. Obviously, they have resumed communication, according to ESPN's Jeremy Fowler, as Hendrickson seeks a long-term contract extension. Fowler characterized the conversations as delivering, quote, some optimism regarding the edge rusher's future with the team. Hendrickson had skipped the entire offseason program, so now they have some time to get this figured out, hopefully, after Joe Burrow said it himself that this is a distraction for the team.
They have to get this done. There's not another option. And at this point, it's strange because when you bring in someone like Al Golden, who I think will help you get to the quarterback in unorthodox ways, in different ways, in the way that he's going to be able to match coverages and all that kind of stuff. I mean, he did a great job at that when he was at Notre Dame. But there has to be some semblance of an edge rush. There just has to be, because you don't have an interior pass rush. And now, Miles Murphy, who's the only other who you drafted 2 years ago in the first round, who's kind of fallen off and you haven't really gotten anything out of him yet. I mean, hopefully over the course of these next 3 weeks, they come to their senses, because you've paid your wide receivers. You've set the table for this being your comeback off season. But unless Joe Burrow is planning on scoring 41 points a game, there has to be some sort of a counterbalance defensively.
Yeah, I mean, outside of quarterback, left tackle, there's nothing more important on a football team in today's NFL. And you got Murphy, you got Joseph Asai. These are the guys who are your edge rushers right now. And I don't personally like we went over the Stewart thing, but I don't like a rookie getting no reps and potentially missing all of camp. We'll see how that goes. That usually leads to a protracted, problematic rookie season that we look back on and say was kind of lost. And I don't like veterans showing up late in training camp or before week 1 either, because that usually leads to something that not the best season of that player. And so Al Golden's in a tough spot here, year 2.
And and Stewart too. What was the big knock on him, right? He led college football in pressures, but only had 4 sacks. He's had trouble finishing. And so you need him in training camp during the full contact period, so you can at least get him acclimated to, now he's not going to be tackling quarterbacks, obviously, but you can simulate that kind of stuff in a real way. You can maybe help him get to the heart of whatever this is, if it wasn't just some sort of happenstance or weird statistical anomaly. But he needs to be in there by the time you guys start hitting.
And take a deep breath, Cincinnati brain trust, and realize these are all things that are in your control, and you have a chance between now and late July to clear the decks and have everybody hunky-dory and, try to get back to being a Super Bowl contender, which has kind of slipped away the last couple of years. One more note on the Bengals. This started floating around on social media.
Yes.
There's an acronym that they're using in their weight room. Yeah, flash that up. Can you pause that, Justin? It's FAT, PHAT, and then it's above it. It says, and this is in huge lettering on the wall in their training room, where all their workout equipment is. A Bengal is fat, and then underneath, physical, hungry, accountable, teammate. And I don't know. I don't know about this one. I feel like in your weight room, the place that is really the ground zero for fitness and turning your body into just a machine, a football success machine. Saying a Bengal is fat on the wall. I don't know if they quite stuck the landing on this one. Your thoughts, guys?
Yeah, like I'd say also, and I'm like, you when you're in here and you're working out and you're maximizing your body and you're growing as a team in terms of fitness, and you need to be focused. When I see the term fat, PHAT, it's not like a hello young folks type of thing, but let's be honest, it takes my mind somewhere else, away from weight training. Like, I think it's a little distracting. It means multiple things in our society, here in America at least, and it's not typically bodybuilding for men.
There's also this, Connor, and we're not the group maybe to know what, in terms of like the slang of the youth. I do feel like fat had a major run in the 90s and 2000s. I don't know if it's a big word out there anymore either, the PHAT version. Is it being used a lot? I don't know. But it does feel almost like it was cooked up by, a 51-year-old defensive linebackers coach.
Or you go to my age. The first thing you do is go to my age. You immediately call out someone my age, as if I had deal in other lexicons.
That was inadvertent, but perhaps, it was connected to some thoughts on once you're at that certain age. You're trying to figure out what the kids are saying, and maybe fat is something that's not out there. Let us know. Shout us out in the comments.
Yeah.
Saying that.
I think I have two thoughts on this. The first is that
who's this guy, by the way? Who's this Drake Burton guy? I mean, I don't know who is Drake. Drake, I think, is on he does a podcast, and he's inside the Cincinnati complex. I don't know this is what keeps you in the complex.
Right.
When you're blowing the lid off a Bengal is fat, and then shaking your head disapprovingly.
He's sweating. It looks like he's got a.
Is he on the team? Maybe he's filling in for Trey Hendrickson. I don't know. Let's do some research on Drake Burton. What were you saying, Connor?
Well, so my thoughts here first that, with the fat thing, maybe the Midwest is sort of like Eastern Europe where, they're still listening listening to Poison and Motley Crue, and they're just not there yet. And, they still call soda pop.
Connor
and all
breaks
these
away
things.
from another territorial part of the world with that comment, but you're a little bit behind.
A little bit slow.
And the second is that, do you remember when the Browns had the dog pound thing and they asked everyone to hashtag? They asked everyone to hashtag their tweets DP, which also means something very different. And a lot of adult content that popped up there. If you're a team, how are you not envisioning the nightmare scenario here where you have a Bengals offensive lineman that's dry heaving in a Miami game in early September, and then someone juxtaposes that large out of shape person with the fat thing, and then all of a sudden we're off to the races, and it takes a lot of air out.
It just feels like there's a lot of these mistakes are so preventable.
Yeah,
they've done it again.
Keep it in the lab in a couple days, and my prediction is you're going to see that wall changed. You're going to see something else on that wall by August. That's my prediction. Let's see. All right. In other news, let's check in with the Dallas Cowboys. The Cowboys are
ratings
nobody's
go up.
Super Bowl. What was that?
Just like anything, ratings
Spike. Sound off in the comments. Is this the year for the Cowboys? Ow! Let's check in. Cowboys swagger. It's kind of been in short supply. But here comes head coach. Oh, my God. I forgot about this. The Cowboys hired Brian Schottenheimer as their head coach. That was a move.
They did.
That's where they went. All right, I'm not going to judge. Let's see how it plays out. Anyway, Here is Dallas Cowboys head coach Brian Schottenheimer showing a little bravado around America's team. Ow!
We're going to win. And when we win, our coaching staff is going to get rated, and people are going to come after our coaches because we're going to win. And so the thought is you develop the guys in the building that you believed in enough to hire and bring here and begin to talk about your culture and your vision and things like that.
Is anybody Electric Factory? Is anybody in?
I will say one thing.
Yes.
I obviously have like a Marty Schottenheimer affinity and
fetish, perhaps.
I just think that if you can, like, you learn from someone that knew how to motivate and work with players, and he has been. It's not like, to me, I think it was the hire that obviously was the most vanilla hire. I want to wait and see, because I kind of have this feeling that he might be the right guy at the right time for Dallas. But that's the kind of thing that will get tweeted, and then I look like I'll be blown up when they're 1-4.
I like when you put yourself out there, Mark.
I really, he's
Go ahead.
grown on
say
me.
Say Brian Schottenheimer is a great hire for the Cowboys. And then when they're 6-1 in October, we could play this back, and you could unbutton your shirt, a few extra buttons, and
do
we'll
a good
celebrate
morning
you.
football. Yeah.
No, I think he was the right. I think he lines up to me as the right guy right now. I like it more than had they gone and.
What does that mean,
Bill
though? Like,
Belichick.
why do you think that? Like, what is it? What is it about him that inspires confidence that he is the right leader for that team at this time?
He is someone, and I've not done this with all the coaches, but I wanted to go watch some of his pressers and stuff, and I realized it's just press conferences. But hearing players talk about him too, like even the Micah Parsons calling him up to say goodnight with that whole trend, like it tells me that maybe he's able to reach players in a way that I just would not have known. And I think that team needs to kind of have like a change of their soul and their heart and become something different. And I know that his father was able to do that with multiple teams. Does he have that in him? I will see. Wait and see.
Maybe. He doesn't like strike me as a culture changer, the way like Dan Campbell is an example. One prominent example was.
I don't think he strikes anyone that way right now.
Yeah. But he almost, to me, more profiles, like a lot of people were not over the moon about the Mike McCarthy hire. It was just, although they're different situations, McCarthy had pelts on the wall, but at the same time it felt like maybe a little bit of a retread type hire. That's kind of how I feel about the Schottenheimer hire, where it could work, and there's a reason he's been in the league as long as he has. But also, this is a guy that was hunting for a head coaching job for 15 years, and then it finally Conor kind of falls into his lap, and all of a sudden he's the head coach of the Dallas Cowboys, and that was kind of my point where we got started. It just kind of surprises me to kind of get some distance from the hire in January, and then be like, wow, he ended up getting like arguably the marquee head coaching job in professional football, at least from the visual and the juice of it all. Yeah,
my thought here is that I think what Brian can effectively play right now, and I do agree with him that the staff is really good. Every year I put together the rising head coaches list, and some of the guys that he did bring in, including Clayton Adams as the offensive coordinator, have been really talked about names in league circles for a while. Aaron Whitecotton, who was with the Jets last year, is going to be their defensive line coach. Is another guy from the list that ended up moving over to Dallas. And so I think that there are some good coaches there, and I think the coaches down there are happy or excited this time of year, but everybody is. But with Schottenheimer, I think the reaction was so vehement against him that you can, at least in the spring months and the early summer months, sort of make that your play, right? To all the guys, like you've been roundly victimized at this point, and the team either has no choice but to circle the wagons around you or to already cast you off in May and June, which seems like, just not the right thing to do. And so I think that there's a runway for Schottenheimer. It's just up to him on whether he can capitalize on it. Don't do dumb shit in the preseason games. Don't make any sort of glaring game management errors in your first 2 weeks. And then maybe you can walk the tightrope here and survive.
Yeah. Just because it's not sexy doesn't mean it won't work.
Sure.
So let's see how it goes.
Bruce Arians is a top example of that when he was not.
I found Bruce Arians extremely sexy.
I think he grew from a sexy angle, like as he won.
Yes, the offensive coordinator Clayton Adams, DC Matt Eberflus, special teams coach Nick Sorensen. This is interesting. According to our lads, do you know who the de facto GM of the Cowboys is? I always thought it was Jera / his son, but it's Will McClay.
They have Will McClay? Yeah.
Yeah, Will McClay. All right, let's take a break here and get back to some news right after. Stay right there. Calling all hedonists. Let's take a break to talk about the Patreon, where you could find bonus content connected to the Heed the Call universe. www.patreon.com/Heed the Call, Mark.
So much happening. We got a new Rolling Thunder out this week that Jason and I recorded. I've got my newsletter coming up, Silver Horses. Dan, I know you've got a couple things on the burner as well.
Absolutely. The Throwback Podcast with me and my bosom buddy Bob Castrone is back coming up in a week or so, so make sure you keep your eyes out on that. And then all the other great content, including It Came From the Subreddit, a study of the fan culture of Heed the Call. Wow, how about that? Fan culture. Check it all out. There's all sorts of fun stuff regularly dropping on the Patreon. Be a part of it. Can't wait to see you there. All right, we are back. Let's dive right back into the news around our league. The Colts, we had Zach Kiefer on the show last week. It was a flashpoint focus around the Indianapolis Colts and a future that feels like it could go in a lot of different directions following the death of Jim Irsay and Anthony Richardson being, at a crossroads as a player himself. The new Colts owner, it's the daughters of Irsay, but the woman out front is Carly Irsay Gordon. And this is the woman that you've seen on the sidelines from time to time, or is it all the time? I'm not quite sure. With a headset on, and it does. If you are the fan of a team like this, and it doesn't have anything to do with her being a woman, it's more just like, why is there a son or daughter of the owner on the sideline with a headset on? It just makes you feel uneasy and like, what is this all about? She was at a press conference where it was the transition of power type situation, and she had this to say about why she'll be on the sideline going forward with a headset during games, and then we could figure out what we think about it.
That sort of accelerated I need to learn more about this. I need to be able to say, is this person full of BS? Do they even know what they're talking about? And the headsets are really, I wish more, I would suggest it for anyone else that has to pay coaches and GMs millions and millions of dollars. It helps you make a less expensive mistake potentially.
I don't know if I like it, Connor. I don't like it because it's, first of all, it's a little bit like, hey, look at me. I mean, couldn't you do the same thing from upstairs somewhere?
Yes.
And the second part of it is it really doesn't instill a lot of confidence. It's like when, and this happened to us at NFL now that I'm thinking about it, one time where we got in trouble and then the boss of the newsroom sent one of his guys in his chain of command to just stand behind the glass and watch our shows and look over your shoulder. It doesn't empower anyone involved, and it kind of sends the wrong message in general. So I don't love it. I understand where she's coming from, but I feel like it's probably not the best path, and it looks like she's going to continue doing it.
Here's the thing. I've heard some of my favorite stories are about what happens on a headset during an NFL game, and it is one of the most singularly charged atmospheres in all of sports, right? You have all these people who are shutting themselves away from their family and their children and their livelihood, and everything else to come up with a way to beat like the Raiders on a Thursday. And this play that you work on for all this time comes in and some guy fumbles the ball. And of course you're going to yell like, damn it, and, smash your coffee because it's such a heartbreaking game. And do you really want to have to muzzle yourself on the one secure line of communication where everybody's going to understand your pain? Everyone's going to feel that. Do you want to worry about how somebody interprets that? And then what's your goal here? Is to have your coach acting like a fake political cowboy kind of guy, just like, we got it, fellas, everyone keep a heads up in a sunny day. And like, that's not going to help anybody acting that way. Like, you just have to act normal on a headset. So she's saying, I advise it for all of their owners. I think it's a good practice, but just like you said, do it upstairs in your own suite on a little iPod, or whatever, Airbud, write down the notes, and then you can go to the coach later in the week or even another coach and be like, hey, my guy did this. Is that weird? Is it weird that they're acting that way? Like, actually suss it out like somebody who owns an organization and not someone who's just trying to kind of slam their what into the scenario.
I don't mind her curiosity.
Right.
But to the point that you both made, like, you don't need to be down on the field marching up and down the sideline. The thing is, like, I'll never forget, as a freshman in high school, I had this social studies teacher named Mr. Medvey, and he was very tough on us. And yet, they did the thing where, like, the principal comes in to watch the class for like 8 minutes, and the teacher's like in a bit of boiling water.
All of a sudden the teacher
suddenly,
Robin Williams in Dead
yeah,
Poets
it's like,
Society.
oh, Mark, like that
that
was a wonderful comment about deep Asian, like ancient Afghanistan. like I was like, what? Like, you've never said anything nice to me the whole time. I will. So I think, like, you're right. You want to let that environment be as free and creative and antagonistic and real as it needs to be. Like, I don't like when anyone of authority is watching me do anything. I'll never forget when I first started mowing lawns, like, the woman, our next door neighbor, would stand in the window watching me mow the lawn. And I was like, I'll do so much better if you're not watching me. So I just don't want anyone, like, on that headset if I'm part of the team. Yeah. But I like her. We just sort of said with Jim Irsay he was different, and we came around to realizing that difference in this league is good. And so something about it, if it doesn't rub the team the wrong way, I kind of like her curiosity and her desire to know.
Yeah, to that point, I haven't really seen her as we were watching that. She looks like she's feisty and might have some things to say. I hope she does. I hope she does share that DNA trait with her old man. I don't know. It's not an apples to apples comparison, but, like, it does annoy me when figures in power kind of go out of their way to show that they're, big shots. And all through the NBA playoffs, as an example, the guy, David Zaslav, he is the CEO of Warner Brothers, and he was in the middle of all the negotiations for TNT to keep the NBA rights. And whenever TBS or TNT was doing their celebrity row, celebrity check-in for all these games, especially Knicks games, because it's at the Garden and all that. All this, it's always, it's major star, A-list star, major recording artist, and then there's David Zaslav, and it's like, we don't need to see it. Like, Zazzy, we don't need to see you. Like, you are not. I know you gave instructions to make sure that we see you, but I don't need you. I can't lump you in with the other people that they've shown in this row. It's on my radar.
That's a good radar pickup. That would annoy me.
There's a very loose connection to what we were just talking about, but it did come to mind, and now I've shared it. Zaslav gets his. Let's check in with a couple of quarterbacks. Quarterbacks we like to various degrees, or are entertaining figures. I've shared my feelings about Jameis Winston, who's treated now as a cuddly teddy bear / stand-up comedian. It's interesting what we give people passes for and what we demonize others for. Just, but anyway, Jameis Winston is, at the very least, a colorful personality. And I found this funny. The Giants are going to be a more interesting team with Winston in that quarterback room. Darius Slayton is a wide receiver for the New York Giants. At Giants minicamp, he shared a little anecdote of what it's like just having conversation with Winston and what makes him so different than most players he's ever played with.
It's like, it's so hard to describe. It's just like how I'm talking right now, he'll be talking just like this, and it's just the random thoughts that come to his head and they just come out. And it's like, we were talking about, a slant. How did we get to Kentucky Fried Chicken? It's like just hard lefts. Like, I can't think of an exact example, but like that's how I could describe it. It's just like random hard lefts, but then he comes right back on topic. So it's like, am I tripping or are you tripping? But he's a really fun guy to be around.
I think every friend group has a left turn guy, like big left, hard left turn, and that's Winston, I guess, in that locker room. And then there's Joe Flacco, currently with the Cleveland Browns. I feel like he's been on many, many, many teams now since his Ravens heyday. There was a clip that went around last week around Shedeur Sanders chatting up Joe Flacco when they were mic'd up on the field. Sanders was doing a little dance, and I think he asked Flacco, like, do you do dances? And Flacco's like, I don't think I've ever danced in my life. And then he elaborated on what he views to be, quote, embarrassing TikTok dances in our culture. Joe Flacco, take it away.
No TikTok dances. The fact that people, that is different too. This generation, the fact that people want to get on their phones and show people the most, like, that's embarrassing. You're an adult, like, be an adult. Like, it's just like, I can't wrap my head around that. And like, I get it. Like, you have kids and like, you want to have fun with your kids. Like, well, like, have fun with your kids in private, you know? That's what I think.
Nice.
Dad, get off my lawn.
Hell yeah. Good for him, you know? And that's the thing, like, with Shedeur coming in, is there's always been that fine line, and there's that emotional intelligence that you need when you step into a situation like this. But to immediately think that when you're mic'd up, like, I'm going to kind of like juxtapose myself with Flacco and get some good content out of it, good for him for shutting that shit down. It's just like, no, man, you know, learn your shit and let's go out here and win week 1. This is a job. Get a briefcase.
And I think his take is on point. Like, there's so much garbage and nonsense happening. Not to be like, I'm in the same on this, you know, I'm also on the person's lawn. I don't think everyone should be stopped from dancing, but I'd say a large majority should be not allowed to do that anymore at this point. Online, on TikTok.
There's so many things like,
you guys are just old.
No. Because
shaking your fist at the crowd.
Are you doing
the kids
TikTok
dance?
dances,
Let
Dan?
the kids dance.
You know what's worse?
Let them express themselves.
There's dancing, and then there's sometimes when the algorithm hits you with like relatable parent content. There's these times when like the kids will do something, and then the mom just immediately, or the dad flips on the phone and is like, you know, when your 3-year-old like eats a cookie and lies about it, and it's like, this thing got 3 million views and this little child feels like a giant asshole. Like, this thing shouldn't exist at all. Like, think about what this has given us in life versus what it's taken away. I'm with Flat. Like, I would go a step further. Let's find the plug underneath the Atlantic Ocean. Just shut this all down. You know what I mean? Just to plug the whole damn thing. You know?
How are we going to do a show then?
The entire internet?
Find us somewhere.
We just start doing a show from a hilltop.
And then we just email out individual eps' DVDs like OG Netflix.
Like a hilltop in like...
The new podcast is here.
Kind of see where you're coming from, but yeah.
Yeah, we just go somewhere. We go find like a grassy knoll somewhere in the foothills of Ireland and just do a show. And then like whoever shows up.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we have a plan B when they unplug the whole
a solid plan B
system.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Now, this is interesting. You remember Antonio Brown?
Yeah.
Antonio Brown was 5 years ago, I would say, like on a very straight path to the Hall of Fame. I mean, it would blow a lot of people's minds to, like, for instance, my son, my youngest, Harrison, has really gotten into sports in the last year, and it's adorable. He'll like lay in bed and just study the backs of baseball cards like it's 1958, and then just hit me with like crazy like data points. Like, Daddy, did you know that Jorge Soler hit 48 home runs for the Marlins in 2021? I'm like, wow, that's a nugget. That's a nug, bro, in a big spot. But to that point, like if I let Harry take a look at Antonio Brown's stats from his heyday, can you fly those up, Justin? You would say this guy is one of the greatest to ever play the position. That's how good Antonio Brown was. And the way his career flamed out is just outrageous. Remember, Mr. Big Chest, that was one of his nicknames. Like, I'm looking at his stats, starting with his 4th season in Pittsburgh through his last season in Pittsburgh, and then things went sideways right after that with a pit stop in New England and then Tampa with Brady. But here's the numbers: 110, 1,508, 129, 1,713, 136, 1,834 and 10, 106, 1,284 and 12, 101, 1,533 and 9, 104, 1,315. All-Pro first team 4 straight years during that stretch, and All-Pro second team the other year. This guy's wanted for attempted murder right now. or was he? Let me just get this right. He is facing a warrant for his arrest on a charge of attempted murder with a firearm. This involves an event at a celebrity boxing event last month in Miami. He claimed at the time he was jumped by multiple individuals who tried to steal his jewelry and cause physical harm. And according to the police report, after said event happened, allegedly, he is accused of taking a gun from a security officer at the event and then chasing a man with it and shooting at him twice and possibly grazing the man's neck with one of the bullets. So that is a pretty hardcore situation. And just, again, pointing out that 5 years ago, this guy was the greatest wide receiver in the world, and he's obviously a mentally troubled individual based on everything we've been hearing in his social media in recent years. And now, I don't know if he's on the lam or what, but pretty crazy story.
It is a study in unchecked mental health problems gone totally wayward. It's like, I guess it's like whenever it seems like, Antonio Brown news pops up. This is of a more serious nature than some of it. But his presence online, like sort of who he's been as a person too. I think one thing that stood out to me was like when you had someone like Tom Brady going out of his way to stand up for you and speak on your behalf, and then you betrayed him as well. That to me stood out as like, you're just not really seeing the world the way that we are. And so you're going to get, I think, when these situations, I think the problem is they increase in severity. I don't know exactly what happened here, but when you're taking a gun from a security officer and shooting it twice at someone, you should not really be part of our society on some level. Like, you shouldn't be going to celebrity boxing matches. I'd start there.
To trace famously, I remember interviewing the guy who caught Antonio Brown's gloves when he flung them into the crowd at MetLife Stadium, and thinking,
was that his last game? Was that his final game when he walked on? Took his shoes off and just walked off, waving.
2021.
I believe it was. I think that's how his career ended at the Meadowlands. Yeah.
Yeah. And just to think of the line that we've drawn to this point, he tweeted a Malcolm X quote about basically saying that the media was responsible for this attempted murder charge.
Naturally.
And it's just like, it's a window into, I guess, how you view personal responsibility at this point. But it's just like, what can be done? I don't know. Do you arrest him? Do you no degree of interference has seemed to help at this point. And it's sad. It's a bummer to see something happen like that.
All right. So we'll follow that story. I mean, he's not connected to the league anymore, but again, he was, especially in our NFL media era, he was a towering figure. All right. In other news, another wide receiver. His name is Rashee Rice, talented guy. He's had his own legal issues, actually. I'm not sure what's going on with his legal issues. We'll figure that out. That will come out in time. But he is coming back from a very bad leg injury last season that ended what looked like it was about to be a breakout Pro Bowl type season with the Chiefs. He's working his way back. Sounds like he's ready to roll. And he becomes the latest. This has become a Trope Alert as we get into the Trope Alert section of our program today. A chief or someone connected to the Chiefs saying, I know you've been waiting for it for a few years now, but this is the year the Chiefs offense goes back on the offensive.
We got a lot of guys. We're deep in depth. Wide receiver group. We're going to be explosive this year. We're just excited to put on the show to be
Mark and Connor are like, turn down that rocket and no dancing. That rap music. Oh, they call it music?
I don't care what music it is. I don't care what the genre is, but to play it at a deafening level while you're trying to speak to each other. I mean, if it was
rap more like crap.
He has us as the adults in Footloose. That's not where I was coming from. I said many should be allowed to dance. Some should not. Some should not. For the betterment of all.
I took something and then stretched it beyond its bounds of. Yeah,
that might have.
I don't do those things. I don't know why you would ever accuse me of such a thing.
Use my words carefully, to no avail.
Don't forget that I'm an asshole. Yeah, that's true. Rice. We're gonna put on a show this season. I hope so, but I've now reached the stage where I'm not gonna buy in on this anymore because remember, that was really, you want to talk about, there's a lot of people that especially as somebody who plays fantasy, and when you get into August and you're preparing for your fantasy draft and you're listening to people that are really plugged in and are studying X's and O's and also the player acquisitions and how they could be used in the offense and all that. And what always happens inevitably is these people get sucked into the hype around Andy Reid, Patrick Mahomes, and playmaker X, Y, and Z. But that's not how they choose to play football to win. And I don't think we're going to see, and I hope I'm wrong, because they were a lot more fun to watch, the Chiefs. I think some of the Chiefs' pushback, honestly, Mark, is that they stopped being this explosive, fun, shoot-'em-up team and became this, like, almost, I don't want to say they were Patriots-like, because they're different dynasties, but this, like, we know how to win. We know how to keep a game close. We always figure out how to make one more play and win a lot of close games. And that is the formula they've used for several years, and they keep going back to the Super Bowl. So I don't imagine all of a sudden we're going to see this, like, Patrick Mahomes throwing for 5,000 yards and 50 touchdowns again. I just don't expect it anymore.
No, and I think Andy Reid, who seems always to be learning and doubling down on stuff even within the days or weeks between a game, has created a team that can play with almost anyone. Unless, the wheels come off, like against the Eagles. They've got 14 receivers on the roster right now. And I think the point was, like, since Tyreek Hill, this is the best collection they have. Because I think the problem was you're also watching Tyreek Hill blow up the league in Miami.
Take a look at this depth chart.
While the Chiefs look the way they look. But you've got Xavier Worthy. You still have Juju. You've got Rice. There's other guys like Will Sky Moore, Will Justin Ross. Will these guys break out? They drafted a guy in the 4th round, Jalen Royals, who's interesting as well. So you've got a bunch of dudes. I think you're, like, making up for it, but it kind of reminds me of the Packers for a little bit. It's like, it's unclear who the lead dog here is or how the Packers were a year ago, right? It's like,
and what Rice is
from a fantasy
coming
angle.
off a major knee injury, like that's a big question. And Kelsey came off a season where he looked super old. I have my doubts, Connor, that when you look at this depth chart, that they have the playmakers to even do what Rice is saying.
Well, we're comparing them against something that will never be again, right? Because it was an in-prime Kelsey and Tyreek Hill, and the way that they were able to play off one another, one basically sucking all the defenders into the intermediate part of the field, and then the other just absolutely knifing through the back end without a lot of coverage and a lot of people to help. I mean, that was a dynamic and a duo that you really can't replicate. And now what's interesting to me is that Kelsey's coming into camp now. I think reports are saying 20 to 25 pounds down from last season, which is usually kind of, I mean, I'm at that age now, right, where you're trying to blame a lot of your problems on a little excess spare tire around the waist and think that maybe that'll help solve your problems, but takes him out of the fold as a blocker. And so I do think that there is some, there could be some repercussions for that. The moment that Tyreek Hill left, they started looking for, whether it was Clyde Edwards-Helaire or eventually Isaiah Pacheco and signing Joe Thuney and all that, it was always, we're going to go to the ground game. We have to get away from this, because I think they knew it. It's not replicable. And so it's just like asking the 2017 Patriots to be the what was the Randy Moss Patriots, the 2007 Patriots?
2007.
Yes. Yeah. And so you're just asking a team to be something that they're never going to be again. And I think that we need to kind of get that version of the Chiefs out of our rearview mirror.
Yeah. I think if, Kelsey, if you ask me what would be an over-under for yards and touchdowns, where I would have to think about it, if he gave me, I don't know, 704.5, like, I'd have to think hard for both at this point. And I imagine watching, because that was a humbling game tape to watch for everyone and connected to the Chiefs, but maybe none more so than for Travis Kelce, who all those replays that you're watching of him failing to get over to pick up a block and chugging along on a drag route, or just been unable to get any type of distance away from the defenders. He looked so old and slow, and it is the age, it's the amount of games that he's played. And I always did think, not to put this on the international pop star that he's been dating for a couple of years now, but like, his lifestyle changed so much last year and the last 2 years, that offseason last year probably was just a whirlwind roller coaster of being a celebrity, and maybe this is the wake-up call. So maybe that's the case for him giving you more than he gave you last year. But also, he's just older now. So he's still a major part of it. Like, what does he give you? Because that makes so much of that offense go. All right. Few transactions to hit. Cam Akers signs with the Saints. The Rams are dealing with issues on their offensive line. DJ Humphries signs a 1-year deal after Alaric Jackson is dealing with some blood clots again. Jordan Rodriguez, our buddy, reported that this is obviously something he's dealt with in the past. The Rams did not draft tackle depth, and Rob Havenstein is recovering this offseason from clean-out procedures on both shoulders. So the tackle position is something to keep a watch on as the Rams head back to training camp after their Maui excursion. And let's finish with a little bit of another episode. How about this? Justin up to his old tricks. Another ep of Remember the Titans? Very nice, Justin. I just found this to be funny. The headline alone, this is from Variety, which, Mark, you know, you're living in Hollywood. Yeah, see? Variety is a long-standing trade publication there, covering the show business.
I alone would know that.
You're just a little closer to the industry in some ways, you know. Living in Tinseltown yourself, as you do. Right in the shadow of man's theater. Anyway.
You're not wrong.
The Cam Ward story, a 6-part docuseries about this year's NFL draft #1 pick. How about that? This is great. Justin, great job. The #1 overall pick, he has his own docuseries, and now everyone can get to know him better. What's it going to be on? Is it going to be on HBO? Is it going to be on Amazon? Is it going to be on Hulu? Is it going to be on a major broadcast television? Maybe they just drop it right after Matlock is a lady now. Who knows? No, it's going to be on Tubi. Tubi?
Oh, the free one.
Oh, Gravy, jump in here. This is what I'm talking about with Cam Ward. I don't know who his agent is. I don't know who's responsible for what's going on. But what we are trying to do is we want to position Cam Ward. What's so funny, Connor? We want to position Cam Ward as a legitimate, sensation, a guy that everyone should be excited about. And we keep on having these setbacks. I mean, whether it's he can't even get a jersey swap with a 5th round pick, and I think there was another one in the mix now, and now this, he's got to be on a major streamer if he's going to sign pen to paper. What did he make for this? $800? Tubi doesn't have deep pockets. Where's Tubi? Who could find such a thing?
Well, Tubi is free for anyone, so therefore it's technically more accessible than a paywall like Amazon Prime or Netflix.
Oh no!
Number 2. Tubi acquired the right. This was produced independently. Tubi did not produce this. This was produced independently by another company. I can't remember the name, but I did read the article. And Tubi acquired the rights, which means which means they paid for them, which means there's some money behind their decision to go acquire this property. It's gonna bring some eyeballs to Tubi. Miami Hurricanes fans.
It's like
Titans fans.
The GM app, which once again popped up this weekend in the sports world, where the Red Sox traded their great slugger Rafael Devers, a known Yankee killer, to the Giants for a bag of baseballs. Get on the GM app and see if anybody wants a guy that could be a Hall of Famer. For
right,
Christ's sake.
Instead, in its place is an abyss. Right.
I mean, how about reach out to us? We could have put this on the Patreon. Patreon.com/heedthecall. That's I think a bigger audience than on Tubi. Well, we want the Titans to be a bigger deal. Because we love you, Justin, and we keep on running into these very clear signs of, I don't know. This is a tough one. This is a tough ep of Remember the Titans.
This could put Tubi on the map, though. Everyone starts somewhere. You got to start acquiring big properties and big names to make a name for yourself. And I think Tubi has made a very smart, strategic decision to go after the next great NFL quarterback.
At first blush, my comment to myself was 6 parts feels 5 parts too many.
I mean,
it's telling his whole story from high school through college to being.
Two By's like, we're buying low, like
Okay.
literally like
Okay.
$400. We're in at the ground floor with Cam Ward.
Okay, enough.
Yes, Connor.
They did, and I know Dan said you would never watch it, understandable, but they did a Netflix documentary on the Red Sox comeback over the Yankees in 2004 in 4 parts, and it was one of the greatest moments in Major League Baseball history. There's 2 more chapters to the Cam Ward story on Tubi. Like,
As
more was there
Nashville
possibly
radio
say?
host Buck Rising pointed out, the Tiger Woods doc is only 2 episodes, and this thing
This is
6.
a major, and this goes beyond, of course, the Ward enterprise. They go to the extreme on the other end, but this is not in the streamer world, which I guess Tubi is existing. Everyone always goes way too long with these. Yeah, as you're saying, Connor, it's like, why tell a story in 2 parts when we could tell it in 4 or 6? Like, it's a better show if you give us less.
There were 3 Godfathers.
Right, and a lot of people said that's one too many.
Right.
I will also say they are not
boy.
debuting this until September, and if it's 6 parts, I don't know what the rollout schedule is going to be, but I assume it's like one a week. If the Titans are 0-6, nobody's watching part 6 anyway. If the Titans are 6-0, they might be. Why not give us this now? We got 5 weeks till training camp where nothing's happening.
I'm going to go out on a limb here and say 2By doesn't have their arms around this one.
2By.
I love that it exists, though, as a Titans fan, and I'm sure
Yeah.
Miami Hurricanes fans will also love that it exists.
Does it exist, though? We'll see.
I've never used Tubi before, but I definitely will be using it in September.
I have. It is ad-ridden. Like they chop these like a movie up 14 times. If unless maybe they've changed their model at this point, but like you got a lot of free time while you watch one of these shows.
I mean, you put it on the Patreon for Heed the Call. We're dropping maybe 1 ad break in there per ep.
Tops.
It just feels like a missed opportunity by the Ward enterprise. All right. There you go. We will be back. We will be back on Thursday. And we're gonna let the mini camps marinate and get every last morsel of actual football news, because as we said, once these last mini camps shut down, the tap goes dry in the NFL on news, unless it's the blotter or whatever from this week to the beginning of or to the end of July. So we'll be all over whatever happens this week in the NFL. And so make sure you're there for that, and all sorts of fun stuff going on the Patreon. So make sure you check that out. Connor, did you have anything you wanted to add before we say goodbye?
I don't think so. I do want to add this one thing. There was some discussion in the subreddit about a shirt, and I said I would send a shirt, and the person didn't believe that he thought I was like a scam artist.
Oh my god!
It was really me. I sent you the shirt. So it's
wow.
It actually.
So this is just like 2 people interacting on the podcast right now. And Connor like sending out the message in the bottle and hoping it gets to whoever this person is. Thank you, Connor.
I don't want to.
It's kind of you.
I don't want to be a creep.
There you go. I hope you get that message, whoever you are, and we'll see you on Thursday. Till then, do what you must. Heed the call.